we don't really seek to understand. And, in seeking to understand so many times, I remember my oldest daughter, she she'd gotten mad because her boyfriend, she was dating this boy that she worked with, and then all of a sudden the boy started dating somebody else, and she found out that it was done behind her back, so her feelings were really hurt. So her thought process was, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And she's telling me this. She's going, what I'm going to do is I'm going to become really good friends with this girl, and I'm going to get, like, on the inside, because they say that you pull your enemies close. And then I'm going to find out everything, and then I'm going to break the two of them up. I'm going to make her pay. And I'm going, oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And didn't through my head flash, this is not who you are, and this is not who I'm raising you to be? Yeah, absolutely, that ran through my head. When I took a deep breath, and I started talking to her about it, and I said, wow, like, you're really angry. So help me understand that if you get your revenge, you get even. What is it that you want to accomplish? Oh, okay. You want to get her back. You feel hurt, so you want her to feel hurt. Huh. Well, then how come he gets away with it? And so, it was just questions trying to find out what was going on. And then all of a sudden I said, that really sounds like a lot of the stuff that you used to go through with your mom. Do you think maybe that's going on? And then that was it. That was the key to unlocking it. And in so many of our conversations, many of the times I didn't have to even say, do you think that this is something that's going on with your mom? I would just seek to understand. She'd be like, oh, that's the stuff that happened over here. This has nothing to do with it. She would gorge. She was an intense gorger, so she'd be gorging food a lot, and the food would be going down her face. And so I started to process to try and understand. And for I would say probably a good year when we really started processing that, she really couldn't put it together. And then all of a sudden one day she got it. She said, I remember when her grandmother took her from Colombia, South America, brought her to her mom at that point that she hadn't seen since she was about 10 months, brought her over, and then dropped her off. Her stepdad had taken her out for a bacon cheeseburger at Burger King, and she said in that moment that was the best cheeseburger I've ever had. She goes, and ever since then, she goes, food has been the only way that I feel better. And so she got it. Sometimes we get these gifts, and I started talking a little bit about this earlier, is that sometimes we get these gifts and they're wrapped in really nasty, yucky paper. All of a sudden, your child is in your face, and they're screaming at you. You're the worst parent ever. You're a moron. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. And now you're standing there, and your mouth is open, and you feel this reaction come over your body, and we have one or two ways to go, typically, at that point, is we're going to emotionally shut down and go away, or we're going to get really angry. Because what most of us haven't done and what most of us are working to do is find that middle of that line. And so you stop and you take some of those deep breaths. But sometimes it's really hard to get there. And so we feel ourselves reacting, and maybe in that moment we're going to react. Maybe we're going to get angry. Maybe we are going to emotionally shut down and go away. That's okay. It's just part of our process. We've got to give ourselves some grace. What I need to know is that in this, there is a gift for me. Because when I look back at my own history, what I'm going to look and I'm going to see is that I wasn't allowed to say any of those things, because if I said any of those things, I would have either gotten hit, I would have gotten sent to my room, or I wouldn't even say it because I didn't even want to find out what was going to happen. Or maybe there are some of us that have had some really good parenting imprints, so then we just get kind of blown away by, our child talking to us that way. And so we get a little frozen or a little stuck. And we're really not sure what to do with something like that. that gift, that reaction, when I go into it and I take a look at it, well, I wasn't allowed to get angry when I was younger. And anger, that's just not fair. And so I get to have my feelings about it, and then I get to find my anger. I get to find out what healthy, natural anger is. I get to stop my feet and say, I'm so mad. And then that's all I have to have. So there's always a gift of healing in that package. Wow, I am just going on tonight. Okay, last part. So now we get to the point where we're working on finding our voice, we're working on creating some magical moments, and now we need to reclaim our power. So this is a dynamic tool. Stephen Cartman had put together this drama triangle on the hero, the perpetrator, and the victim, and then I added more to it. So when we're in this triangle, and this is where we always function in our society, we function as the hero, we function as the victim, and we function as a perpetrator. And in order to be in the drama triangle, those roles have to constantly, we have to constantly be moving around in this situation. I can come up with a scenario, or if there is somebody that wants to go over and tell me about maybe an argument or a difficulty that they had with their kid, that we can process it with your story. It'd probably be more fun that way. So if there's any hands that want to go up, we can do that. I'll just check real quick. Oh, wow, there's so many of us today. Well, I got a bunch of them. Okay, we'll see. I'm just going to pick on one, pick on some of them. Hello? Hello? Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't like technology. Hello? 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 Can you hear me okay? Nope. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Peggy?
Hi, Peggy.
Nope. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's take a look at take a look at the drama triangle. What happens is that in order for me to be in the triangle, then everything outside of myself, everything else that's going on, what happens is that I begin, everything outside of myself I feel like can affect me and impact me in a certain way. I want to be in a place where I'm not attached to trying to make it better as the hero, because if I'm attached to trying to make it better, what's going to happen is I'm going to keep pushing you and saying, you know, we got to do this, we got to do this. And one of the big things that happens for our kids that they'll say again and again is that you always keep trying to fix me. So if you're trying to fix me, then something's wrong with me. We're not in there and we're not supporting them. So if I'm attached to making a certain behavior stop, and this is really quite a paradox, because if I'm attached to making a certain behavior stop, the second I go in to make that behavior stop, then all of a sudden you're going to move out of that place and you're going to get frustrated and you're going to shut down. And so the less that I do, the better chance I have of helping you heal. The more that I do, the less of a chance that you're going to be able to work from a place where you're ready to heal. The perpetrator is attached to getting their power back. People will bully people based on feeling a full sense of power. And when I say power, I should say that, you know, there's a really good sense of power. Power is feeling like you're in a really good place, you're in a safe place, you can take care of yourself, that nothing is going to happen to you, and that you have some control over your life. in the areas that you can control. A full sense of power is somebody who has to take over someone or control something in order to make themselves feel safe. So my power, again, is externalized, and it's not coming from an internal place. And then the victim is the one that is attached to feeling powerless. There are people that will move into a shame-based place or move into that victim place, and it's really comfortable. It's a really comfortable place to be because this is what I know. And so I can even move into a place where I victimize myself, because if I victimize myself first, then I don't have to worry about you victimizing me, because now I have a little bit of power. So they become attached to it. They're attached to what the payoff is to each one of these roles. So now I'm mom, and now let's say I have all this material. I have all this new material, and I want my child to try and find their voice. And so I move in and I say, honey, tell me what's going on. I know that you're really struggling. I know that you're really having a hard time. I need to know. And then all of a sudden they move into that perpetrator place. You don't really care. Why do you keep asking me about that? Now, if I get attached to making something happen in this moment, then what's going to happen for me is that I'm going to say, come on, you need to do this, because if you're not doing this, then you're going to keep staying where you are, and I'm tired of arguing with you. Or maybe I'm going to say, well, you know what, why do I just keep trying? Because no matter what I do, it doesn't get better anyway. And so now I just moved into a victim role. To move in and do this from a place where I can have my own authentic power. Let's pull out of the drama triangle for a minute, right? I'm going to detach from the outcome, because I can't make you begin to talk about and express your feelings. I can't do it. I don't have enough power. Maybe, in fact, I'm just going to give you permission to be where you are. I'm going to give you permission to keep all of your feelings, because that's what you need to do. Now, just most of the time, by giving someone the power to keep their feelings and not have to express them, a lot of times they're going to express it. Now, if I do it with that intention, then I set myself up, because now I just got attached to an outcome. So I go back into that triangle and I become that hero again. Or if I push it too hard, I can become that perpetrator. So I'm hoping that you really see that. So coming back out, you know what? If you want to keep all those feelings inside and you don't want to find your voice, that is okay. I can understand that. I'm going to honor the process. I'm going to know that, you know what? This is round one. And what I've got to keep doing is opening that space. I've got to keep creating that space and asking you for those feelings. And maybe I'll just model it a little bit. I'll start showing you what those feelings are. I'm going to be aware of how I feel when my child is telling me to shut up and get out of their face. I'm going to be really attuned to that. That's within my power. Being vulnerable is within my power. So let's go back into the triangle now, and let's look at something different. Let's look at good scenario. I have a 14-year-old boy that I'm working with, and he said something really, really powerful the other day. It kind of like almost threw me over. We were talking about how if he expresses his feelings and he talks about his feelings, that it's just about him because it's what he needs. And so I said, well, you know, and my instant thought is, okay, we're talking about, you know, feeling rejected. Why am I going to tell people that, you know, I'm just kind of meaning how I feel? And so he turns around and I said, okay, so somebody comes up to you and they say, how are you? How you feeling? And you say, well, I feel kind of sad. I said, what would be the worst possible scenario that you could think of them saying? And so my mind is automatically at, you know, oh, well, you know, that kind of